I am so excited to welcome Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina to Woke AF Daily. Congressman, you are a very busy man, and it's not like there is nothing that is going on. I want to jump right in and talk about where we are with the coronavirus right now. I know that at the beginning of this month, your subcommittee, the select committee on the coronavirus crisis, held a briefing to kind of remind all of us where we are, that we are in the midst of a global health pandemic that is adversely affecting communities of color. And yet this week, we have the President of the United States continuing to tell us that testing is the problem, and that if we all just hope enough, it will go away. What have you learned, and what do you want to share with people about where we are right now in this crisis?
Well, thank you very much for having me. To begin with, what we've learned is that this problem requires national coordinated leadership, which it is not getting.
Mm-hmm.
The problem we have is that we set up from the beginning the denials that it was a problem. And then when we finally made a decision, the chief executive of our country decided it would be left up to the states, that it was not his problem, but it would be delegated to the states.
Mm-hmm.
What that set up was competition among the states and between the states. And then that meant that we had a 50-state approach, 50 different approaches, if you leave out our territories.
Mm-hmm.
So you had more than 50 different approaches to this problem. So that's what got us where we are. And this president, even now, is refusing to admit the breadth and depth of this problem. And therefore, I think it's going to be up to the American people
Mm-hmm.
To solve the problem, because he's not going to do it. And the 50 individual states cannot do it. That means that we are going to suffer through another 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
And hopefully get some definition to our leadership.
You know, it's apparent, it's obvious, I think, to anybody that has been paying attention, that leadership is really what changes the outcome with the coronavirus. We're watching, every single world leader had to deal with the same crisis at the same time that Donald Trump and the Trump administration has had to deal with it. And we have watched many different versions of how to flatten the curve. And what we know to be true is that you flatten it by following science, the health advisors, and data. 3 things that Donald Trump absolutely hates.
Right.
And so we find ourselves here. Are you concerned? And I want to take us on a slow walk back to March on your endorsement of Vice President Joe Biden. But before we go there, are you concerned at all with there being primaries that are happening this week? There are some that are being done by mail-in votes, others that are being done in person. Are you satisfied with the way that the elections so far have been handled in the midst of this crisis?
No, I'm not. I'm very troubled by it. In fact, every indication is that we are going to have problems throughout this year, right on into November. I am anxious to see what happens in Kentucky today.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing in Kentucky is something I never heard of before. And I don't understand how that's going to work. But let's see. Maybe they're on to something. But I think that when this day is over, we need to sit down and take some assessment. Look at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Wisconsin. Look at Kentucky, and then let's make some assessments as to how we can have a free unfettered election in November, which is something this president does not want to see. I've been telling people for more than 2 years now that Donald Trump has no intention of us having national elections in November. He will try everything he possibly can to get out of meeting the people at the polls on November 3rd.